Hi, you are watching Canada View at Voice of Canada and I am Umar Khan. First of all, we will discuss the top story. The Penelakut tribe said Tuesday that it has discovered more than 160 undocumented and unmarked graves at the site of a former residential school within their territory.
For students here, it became known as Alcatraz, an island prison, the path to escape forever in sight. The watery depths, too far across to safely swim. In the 1890s to 1970s, the Cooper Island Industrial School operated on what's now known as Penelakut Island. Now, the Penelakut tribe confirms the discovery of more than 160 undocumented and unmarked graves on the former school site within their territory. In a letter informing neighboring First Nations communities, Chief Joan Brown writes, "It is impossible to get over the acts of genocide and human rights violations. Healing is an ongoing process, and sometimes it goes well, and sometimes we lose more people because the burden is too great." Global News has reached out to the Penelakut tribe for further information, but officials have not yet returned calls for comment. It's believed ground-penetrating radar was used in this investigation, and there is still more work to be done, what will likely only add to the number of suspected graves reported to be found right across the country.
To members of the Penelakut tribe, we are here for you. We cannot bring back those who were lost, but we can and we will continue to tell the truth.
But survivors who are well aware of the truth are calling for action and accountability after similar discoveries in British Columbia and Saskatchewan, with searches now underway across the country. This, they say, is just the beginning. Another painful reminder of Canada's past that will almost certainly not be the last.
France and Greece have both introduced mandatory vaccines for healthcare workers. Concerns about the Delta variant. Canada requires mandatory COVID-19 vaccinations for health workers like France and Greece.
This physical therapist says she'll be vaccinated against her will to keep her job. Mixed reaction in France to the president's announcement all healthcare workers need the jab. In Canada, COVID case numbers are lower and vaccination rates higher, but the push is still on. Few provinces have mandated vaccines, and only sort of. Quebec has the broadest rules. Since April, healthcare workers who interact with patients have had to show proof of vaccination or be subject to testing 3 times a week. Ontario and BC target long-term care staff. In Ontario, they must show proof of vaccination, provide a medical reason as to why they can't, or take part in an educational program about the benefits. In BC, new rules take effect next week, requiring unvaccinated workers to wear a mask and take regular rapid tests. The head of the Registered Nurses Association of Ontario says she would likely support a government move to make vaccinations mandatory for her members, acknowledging there are still some vaccine-hesitant or even anti-vaxxer nurses.
As the world begins to emerge from the COVID-19 pandemic and restrictions are eased, doctors are warning parents to prepare for an active cold and flu season.
Like so many other pandemic mothers, Victoria Reed has spent much of maternity leave in social isolation.
My plans for, mom groups and doing baby yoga and all of that stuff sort of fell by the wayside a little bit.
For little Holly, it's meant less interaction with new friends and less exposure to germs. Only that's not necessarily a good thing. Called immunity debt, it's what doctors explain as a lack of immune stimulation due to a reduction in exposure to viruses. Wellington-based epidemiologist Michael Baker says in New Zealand, reopening has led to a resurgence in a serious respiratory illness known as RSV. And the surge, he says, is putting a strain on local pediatric wards. Australia is also facing a rise in RSV cases as lockdown measures lift, and experts say Canada isn't immune either. Back in Calgary, where Stampede is in full swing, Reed says she plans to steer clear of crowds, wash her hands, and socialize Holly slowly.
I do think it's also important to try to ease back into life so her immune system can be built.
Nova Scotia Premier Ian Rankin reported 0 new cases of COVID-19 in a briefing on Wednesday as the province officially entered its 4th phase of reopening.
Good afternoon and welcome to Phase 4. As we enter this next phase, I'm very happy to report that there are no new cases reported today. I want to thank all Nova Scotians for their sacrifices in following the public health protocols. This has been a long haul, but you continue to do your part and protect one another. We are not clear of COVID, but we are containing the virus when it makes its way into a community. When we've had spikes, our public health teams have been agile and able to move in with testing and making sure individuals are vaccinated. Our plan at the border is working, and I want to thank people coming into our province for filling out the safe check-in forms as you come in and respecting the rules here. In fact, 37,345 forms have been filled out just since June 30th. Our vaccine program is also working. We've reached the milestone of 75% uptake for first dose, which allows us to get safely into the start of phase 4 as that minimum threshold we wanted to see. So thank you for that. And we're not done yet. We need to get the percentage up for second doses. We're at 45% of those of Nova Scotians, but we need to get higher. And the only way that number moves up is if people who are eligible book their second shot and get to their appointment. In this phase of our recovery, we're more open and have fewer restrictions. You've earned the right to larger gatherings, later hours, and a lot more activity. But this doesn't mean that we're out of the woods yet. We still have to be mindful and cautious. We can enjoy this phase of newfound freedoms. However, until we get our vaccination coverage up and our second doses up, we can't let our guard down to get ready for the next phase. So thank you, and over to Dr. Strang.
Fully vaccinated Manitobans will be allowed to return to movie theaters, casinos, and museums under the province's latest COVID-19 public health orders.
Joining us, and thanks, Doc, to you and your team for all your work on behalf of Manitobans. We sincerely appreciate it. We are taking another step today, a good news day, towards a reopened Manitoba, fully reopening our economy and our communities and getting our lives back is our goal here, and this is a positive step today. Manitoba's 4-3-2-1 Great Summer reopening plan sets out a clear path for more openings and fewer restrictions as more and more Manitobans are rolling up their sleeves and getting vaccinated fully. Last week, Manitobans met and surpassed the vaccination goals we had set out for our second reopening milestone. This, I should note, was almost a full month ahead of schedule. So good for Manitobans. Thanks so much for doing that. As of today, nearly 77% of Manitobans have received their first vaccine dose, and over 58% of Manitobans are fully vaccinated with both doses. I'm also pleased to share that we've administered now over more than 1.6 million doses of vaccine. That is a significant accomplishment. Our vaccine team has performed so admirably, and we thank them for that. And that is one of among the very best records in the country. So Manitobans should be proud of their collective efforts to protect one another and themselves, and also I hope they're very proud of the work that our team has done on their behalf and to help them to get those things back they've missed for the last year and a half, and that we all want to get back as soon as possible. I want to say also thanks for not only rolling up your sleeve, but for your commitment to follow our public health orders. We can't lose sight of the fact that those public health orders are there to help guide us and protect us, and to make sure that we protect one another as well, and to keep bending that COVID curve down. Those case numbers have been coming down thanks to people's efforts, not only to get vaccinated, but also to follow public health orders. We want to move forward. We want to loosen restrictions more, but today we're announcing some effective changes that will come into play, I think 12:01, Brent, on Saturday morning. Correct. All Manitobans will be able to enjoy more freedom starting then, with expanded indoor and outdoor activities. And fully immunized Manitobans who have received both doses at least 2 weeks ago will continue to enjoy even more benefits for doing their part to protect themselves and their community. Under the new public health orders, fully vaccinated Manitobans will also be able to go to a movie or visit a museum. And these are things that many Manitobans hold dear, and I know you'll find that to be exciting news. Vaccines are the safest and quickest way to get us out of this pandemic. They are our protection against a possible fourth wave, and that wave is very possible. It's a question of the degree to which we experience it. The more people that get vaccinated, the less impactful that fourth wave can be. This is how we get our lives back. I'll now pass it over to Dr. Roussin to expand on on the new health orders and possibly even a little good news for Winnipeg Blue Bombers fans. As their sleeve, we're going to be able together to hit our September long weekend targets even faster than we hit our August ones. And that's good news. Each of us has a role to play in protecting ourselves and in protecting the people around us. And so please don't let up. Get vaccinated as soon as you can and keep following those public health orders. I just wanted to conclude on another issue, non-pandemic, but to share with Manitobans that we have worked very, very hard as a government in partnership with our municipal governments to get 40 infrastructure projects, which are collectively worth hundreds of millions of dollars, approved. And they have been waiting approval for funding under our infrastructure agreement, which is called ISIP, an infrastructure agreement with the federal government. We're ready to move ahead. We would like to formally announce these projects with our federal and municipal partners as soon as possible. We want to get shovels in the ground as quickly as possible, and this will help create and maintain thousands of jobs for Manitobans. And this includes one of our real priority projects, which is the North End Pollution Protection Plant for Winnipeg. That's a top priority for our government. It's been a top priority for us to help clean up Lake Winnipeg. It's a treasure. We all know that. And the sooner we can get that project moving ahead, the happier we'll all be. So we have proposed announcing these projects as soon as possible with the federal government. We're just awaiting their confirmation.
Ontario Premier Doug Ford said on Thursday his government was not considering implementing vaccine passports, adding that the receipts given out at the time of vaccination were proof enough of vaccination status.
Well, I've never believed in proof. Everyone gets their proof when they get the vaccination. You're right. Anything can be fraudulent, right down from money to certifications. I just, no, we aren't doing it. Simple as that. We're just going to move forward. Now, if it's federal, getting across the border, that's up to the federal government. We'll see what they decide to do. I'll be talking to the Prime Minister tonight. But the answer is no. We aren't going to do it. We aren't going to have a split society. No, I think it's their constitutional right to take it or not take it. These are super bright people that work their backs off. The unsung heroes, as I say, the PSWs and the nurses and the docs. They understand healthcare a lot better than I do. So we encourage them to do it. I've been up here for months, begging, pleading everyone to get it. But no one should be forced to do anything. I'm double vaxxed. Everyone around here is double vaxxed. So for one reason or another, for health reasons or otherwise, that's going to be up to the people. But if you go back, 80% of the people in Ontario have been have their first vaccination, will be hitting the double vaccination. And again, I just have to thank the frontline healthcare heroes and the docs and the people of Ontario made it happen. The numbers, what's so impressive is how quickly everyone made this happen. And again, it's not me, it's the frontline healthcare workers and how efficient it was. And man, they're running like a well-oiled machine. I'm so grateful.
While many Canadians are excited about provinces reopening, for those battling addiction, the massive change in routine can spark a new struggle, especially for those who are trying to stay sober.
Mark White says the pandemic created the perfect conditions for his addiction to thrive. And in September, the father of two says he was confronted by his family. Now 8 months sober, he says he's nervous about Ontario reopening. For the course of the pandemic, the Canadian Centre for Addictions, where White went to rehab, says it has seen a 41% increase in calls seeking urgent care. In the fall, it will open a new facility to try and keep up with growing demand experts expect to continue to see post-pandemic. According to Statistics Canada, boredom, stress, and loneliness were some of the main reasons Canadians chose to use a substance in lockdown. Psychologist Andrew Kim argues reopening could actually alleviate some of these issues. Just a day away from Stage 3 reopening, White says he plans to do whatever it takes to stay on track.
Manitoba's new Indigenous Reconciliation Minister, Alan Lagimodier, drew criticism from the province's opposition leader, Rob Neal, on Thursday over the minister's comments on residential schools.
The statements were shocking. I believe they really did think that they were doing the right thing.
In his first remarks as Manitoba's Minister of Indigenous Reconciliation and Northern Relations, Alan Lachemodiere re-inflamed the controversy and hurt that led to his appointment in the first place.
I listened to the stories of the survivors.
Yes.
And I cannot accept you saying what you just said about residential schools.
Lachemodiere, who is Métis, was appointed to the job after his predecessor Eileen Clark resigned. She quit after Premier Brian Pallister responded to the Canada Day toppling of statues in front of Manitoba's legislature by saying colonial settlers did not come to Canada to destroy things, but to build up communities.
I paid tribute to Canadians. I paid tribute to pre-Canada builders. I spoke about people who came here with hope to build families and communities. I spoke with sincerity. I spoke genuinely.
In a statement, Clark says, I have spoken up on several issues, but I feel my voice and other voices were not heard in Cabinet. Change is necessary. Inappropriate words and actions can be very damaging.
You can't be out here defending residential schools if you want to work with Indigenous communities. Killing the Indian and the child was wrong. We all know that that was wrong. So you have to move past that.
Lachemodiere has now tweeted an apology, saying he misspoke, acknowledging residential schools were designed to assimilate Indigenous children, which was wrong then and wrong now.
You're watching Canada View at Voice of Canada. For further details and updates, you can log in our website voiceofcanada.tv. Keep watching Voice of Canada.